Good evening, everyone. Hello, Dr. Les. How are you?
Shalom, Rav. I hope your son went off okay.
Yeah, Baruch Hashem.
Wonderful. Okay, so all good. So, Rav, can I mention some amazing news?
Please do.
Okay, so this is really quite big news. The Israeli under 21, this is for the UEFA European Championships. So
Yes.
They beat Georgia on penalties 4-3. Now they're into the semi-finals, and they're going to be playing against England that beat Brazil, which is quite incredible. So the under 20s got into the final, and now we're in the semi-finals of the under 21s, which is absolutely quite unbelievable. And what people don't realize, in the Israeli national team, both the under 21s and under 20s, there's about a third of the team, or maybe even more, is Muslim or Arab and Jewish, and everybody plays together with the Magen David and the flag of Israel. It's quite amazing.
Okay.
So, but a lot's happening. That's on the good side. In France, it's very interesting what's happening in France. You know, there was a Muslim kid that was, unfortunately, he was killed. It was intentional or unintentional. The police say it was very unintentional, but there've been tremendous riots that have occurred in France in all the different cities, all over. It spread like wildfire. And they say over 2,000 cars have been torched. Buildings have been set alight. Somebody ran the car into the mayor of Paris, which is unbelievable. And there's a Jewish lawmaker in the French Parliament, Habib, he's Jewish, and he said something incredible that in 2017 there was a Jewish woman, Sarah Halimi, and she was actually killed by a Muslim who screamed Allah Akbar when he killed her. And you know, there was no torching, there were no fires, there were no riots, nothing. So when it happens to a Yiddisher, everybody's quiet. It's actually quite amazing to contrast, you know, what's going on there. But somebody said this is an intifada happening in France, in the heart of France. For us, what's interesting is when we were faced with the intifada in a few intifadas, the French were one of the very first that were extremely critical against Israel. And, you know, they say what comes around goes around. And now it's happening in Paris and in Toulouse and in the main cities in France. The sad thing is that there's a lot of French Jews there as well. And they found that the majority of those people that are protesting are coming from areas that are extremely anti-Semitic. And I think one thing which was so shocking is that they vandalized the Holocaust Memorial in Paris. That is the memorial to the martyrs of the deportation. And that's like sacred, because France has got a very, very tainted history, how the French police were accomplices in rounding up Jews. And they say over 80,000 Jews were deported to the death camps, where less than 4,500 came back. So they have this memorial, and this memorial had been vandalized by these anti-Semitic and these rioters. What has it got to do with Jews and a memorial to the deportations? So you really see Sonei Israel. It's unbelievable. There was no Jews involved in the murder of this boy, but they're taking it out on the Yidden. So, Rav, it would be interesting to have your take why things like these are happening in Europe. And it's just amazing to see the contrast when a Jewish lady for no reason was killed. No, you know, there was no outcry, there was no demonstrations, there were no riots, and you see the difference. Something which is amazing is say Ein Kmo Am Yisrael, because we react very differently. And we see that, Rav, I'll just end off, you see that in Israel as well. When there's a terrorist attack and a Yid unfortunately is killed, there's celebrations in many of the cities, the Arab cities. But when like an Arab child dies by mistake or whatever, you'll never find anybody like celebrating. It just shows Ein Kmo Am Yisrael.
נכון? אין כעמך ישראל, עם סגולה. No, Baruch Hashem, no, they wanted it. They wanted it. You don't know what's waiting for Europe when the Mashiach comes. This is just the beginning for Europe. Anyway, thank you very much, Dr. Les.
And Rob, I just want to thank you for putting up on the Holocaust and on your site. I am so overwhelmed when I saw it. I couldn't believe what you've done, and I'm extremely grateful to you, Rav. I really am, extremely.
Actually, it has nothing to do with me. It's all my wife. She's running everything in the back.
Wow, well, it's incredible. It's incredible.
I will mention to her and I'll give her the credit.
Please.
I'm
I'm extremely grateful, extremely.
We extremely thankful to you for all what you do.
Not at all.
Dr. Les. Okay, we're going to start the show. Rabotai, we're going to speak about the subject of the show tonight. It's going to be Zain Betamuz. That means the 17th of Tamuz. Today, Be'ezrat Hashem, we're going to try to explain why do we fast on the 17th of Tamuz. We're going to bring the Gemara in Masechet Ta'anit in page 26, volume 1, Kavav Amud Aleph, that explain why. And then we're going to go even to the depth, deeper, to understand what's hiding behind fasting of 17 Betamuz. That means the 17th of Tamuz. Just before, Jeffrey, if you have the Humashim with you, Humash Bereshit Anid and Humash Mot, if you can keep it ready, so when we get to there, you will read it. If you don't mind, Mr. Jeffrey, is that okay with you?
Pleasure.
Okay. Okay, I would like to dedicate the show in the soul of Esther Kaden Bat Ketzia, Mordechai Ben Rahma, Rav Avraham Chaim Ben Eliezer Yaakov, Tamar Bat Zeara, Yaakov Ben Farha, Dvora Bat Dvora Ruth Bat Beila, Shoshana Blima Bat Mordechai Betzalel, Malka Regina Bat Joya, Keti Georgia Bat Farha, Nishmatan Tiet Tzurah B'Tzurhaim. Also, I would like to dedicate the show in health of Menashe Naji Ben Farha, Liora Bet Miriam, Harav Moshe Ben Bahia Batya, Dvor, Harav Moshe Ben Dvora, Harav Avraham Ben Marim, Harav Shlomo Yehuda Ben Dalia, Dvora, Bat Esther, Orna Bluma, Bat Miriam, Sheina Keila, Bat Hana, Mordechai David Ben Leah, Chaim Nahum Ben Pesa, Reza, Ahuva Kaden Bat Tali Esther, Tzvi Ben Hava, Shmuel Meir Ben Shosha Blima, Miriam Bat Zelda Liba, Moshe Avram Ben Henariva, Haya Tzipora Bat Rachel, Ayala Eben Bat Rivka, Tova Liba Bat Rachel, Nahum Ze'ev Ben Sheina Rivka, Yoshua Haim Ben Haya Leah, Vehana Masha Bat Rivka Zelda. Please God, refuah shlema to all of them, ולכל שאר עולי ופצועי עמו ישראל בכל מקום שהם. So, Rabotai, we have to understand on Thursday is 17 Betamuz. Why are we fasting on 17 Betamuz? So Hazal tell us in the Gemara in Masechet Ta'anit. The Gemara in Masechet Ta'anit tell us like this. 5 דברים אירעו את אבותינו ב-17 בתמוז. That means 5 misfortune things happened to our fathers in that day. What is that day? That day is the 17th of Tamuz. And Hazal say, Nishtabru aluchot, that means the first tablet that Moshe Rabbeinu received in heaven, he had to break them down. Why? When Moshe Rabbeinu came from heaven, he saw that the nation and the children of Israel celebrating for the golden calf. Moshe Rabbeinu broke the first tablet. That's the first thing that happened on the 17th of Tammuz. Many years later, during the time of the first temple, it was Butal HaTamid. What it means, Butal HaTamid? It was a sacrifice that they used to bring in the morning and in the afternoon that used to call Korban HaTamid, the permanent Korban that they used to sacrifice. And Hazal tell us that that's being cancelled. Although there is a different Gemara in Yerushalmi, in Masechet Ta'anit, that say no, it happened during the second temple, not on the first temple. There's two opinions. Okay, but we have to understand that what's happened, that it's the same thing that happened in the first temple, okay, that they canceled the Korban HaTamid. What Hazal explained in the end, that in a Gemara, that it happened also in the second temple. That means parallel, it happened basically twice, on the first Bet HaMikdash and the second Bet HaMikdash. The third misfortune thing that happened on the 17th of Tamuz, Hufke'a ha'ir. What do you mean Hufke'a ha'ir? Hazal explained that the city of Jerusalem, the wall of the city of Jerusalem, been taken. That means that the enemy of the Jewish people managed to penetrate and break the wall, that after they put the city of Jerusalem in a siege. What does it mean? We learn that one opinion it was in Beit Rishon, that means in the first temple. But Chazal explained in the Gemara that, matter of fact, according to what the prophet said, it was in the 9 of Tamuz. It didn't happen in Yud Zayin Betamuz. It happened on the 9 of Tamuz. That means it didn't happen on the 17th. There is a big difference. But Hazal explained that the main reason that we're fasting on the 17th of Tamuz, because the same thing occurred on a second temple. And because it happened on the second temple on the 17th of Tammuz, and the 17th of Tammuz that happened during the second time of the temple, since then, it was the destruction of the temple, and until today we don't have. In the time of the first temple, Nahon, that it happened on the 9th of Tammuz. But 70 years later, already we have a second Bet Mikdash. So Hazal explained that the second destruction was worse than the first one, because until today, okay, we don't have Bet Mikdash. Since the destruction of the second temple, we're looking about 1,900, and if I'm not mistaken, 43 years ago. Okay, call it close to 2,000 years that we don't have yet Bet Mikdash. So Hazal said that's why they constitute the 19th of Tammuz, or the 17th of Tammuz, okay, to be the day that we have to fast. So that was the third misfortune thing that happened to the Jewish people. What was the fourth thing? Hazal say, Saraf, apostamos, saraf et Torah, the Torah Kedosha. Saraf apostamos et Torah Kedosha. What happened? Some people say, first of all, I have to explain when is it happened. Some people say that it was 17 years before the destruction of the second temple. Okay? But in a Mishnah, it doesn't say exactly, it doesn't give enough detail to work it out when Apostamos actually burned Bet HaMikdash. We don't have exactly that. Some people say it was 17 years before. What happened then? Okay? It was a chariot of Apostamos. Apostamos used to live in Caesarea in Israel. And that used to be the headquarters, okay, of the Roman. And what happened, when they came to Israel, they make the headquarters there. And one of the chariots of the soldier that passed in a city by Bet Haron. Bet Haron, it's actually on the way to Jerusalem. That soldier, actually, the carrier broke and they took some parts, and it's make the Jewish people cross, and they climb into those soldiers. And when Apostamos heard about it, he took all of his, obviously, his troops, and he come and put the city of Bet Haron there in the area in a siege. That means he told them, give me those people. In the meantime, there was an argument and a fight, and before they realized, Apostamos burned the Torah, and that actually caused worse havoc. So on Yud Zayin Betamuz happened the fourth thing that we mentioned, that Apostamos burned the Holy Torah. The third thing that Hazal said that happened by Yud Zayin Betamuz, it was Umad Tselem Ba'echal. What it means, Umad Tselem Ba'echal? Hazal explained that a statue been put in a chal. That means in Bet HaMikdash, lo alenu. Okay, a statue of idols. What's happened? According to Rabbi Ovadia Mibartenura. Rabbi Ovadia Mibartenura, born around 583 years ago in the city of Bortona in Italia. Okay, that's in the north of Italy also. And in his commentary on a Mishnah on Masechet Anit, he explained that what happened there, and he bring the mahloket. There is a mahloket amongst the Amoraim, what happened. According to one opinion, that statue that been put in Echal was the statue of Menashe Melech Yehuda. Menashe, the king Menashe. According to other opinion, they say no, it was during the time of the second temple. Okay, during the time of the second temple, that's when they put Apostamos himself, he is himself that burned the Torah, he put the statue in Echal. So there's two different opinions what's happened on the 17th of Tamuz. So far we see that 5 misfortune things happen on the 17th of Tamuz. Until here, those what Hazal tell us in the Gemara Masechet Ta'anit 26, folio 1. That's the pshat of the dvarim, what happened. But Rabotai, we have to understand that there is a different level. Why are we fasting on the 17th of Tammuz? And that's what I would like to tackle Be'ezrat Hashem tonight. We have to understand that the 17th of Tammuz, there is a different opinion in Hazal why that we fasting. So first of all, we have to understand what happened. The first thing that Hazal tell us, Nishberu Alochot, the first tablet that Moshe Rabbeinu got in heaven, when he brought them down to earth, you have to break them. What happened there? Rabotai, we have to explain for us to understand. Hazal tell us in the Midrashim that after Bnei Israel received the Holy Torah on Mount Sinai, Bnei Israel, the children of Israel, when they used to study Torah, they remember exactly what they studied. Not only that they remember, they understand the Torah clearly. That means they remember, they understand, and they didn't have to repeat it again. What does it mean? For example, for us just to understand, and then I will continue. We know the halachot Shabbat, the law of Shabbat. There's a lot of law regarding Shabbat. And if a person doesn't learn halachot Shabbat, inevitably he will break Shabbat. He will desecrate Shabbat. So there's so many law of Shabbat that during the time that when Bnei Israel received the Torah, they learn it once and they remember. They didn't have to repeat it. Also the law, for example, the law of Pesach. We know that the law of Pesach, there's a lot of halachot regarding the Pesach. Said the Mefarshim in a Midrash that Bnei Israel have to read it once and they remember it, and they don't have to repeat it again to forget. That means that they will never forget nothing. What's happened? Said the Midrash that after Moshe Rabbeinu broke the tablet, the first tablet, there is something happened in the world. What's happened? That now, from now on, people start to forget what they studied. Today, for example, we're studying, and if we understand one thing, after we manage to understand, after a lot of effort, after a lot of hard work that we put to understand one verse in the Torah, if we're not repeating it, we immediately forget it. I'm speaking for myself. I don't know about you. You obviously all geniuses, but me definitely not. I need to repeat it. And I tell you, if I don't repeat it, I don't remember it. Honestly, it's true. You know, many people say to me, how do you repeat all of it? I say, I don't. I have to repeat it 100 times to remember it, if not 120 times. And people think that I remember. I don't. You know, the other day, a friend of mine said to me, you like encyclopedia. I say, I'm not. I promise you I'm not. I don't remember nothing. That's the problem. It's look like I know, but I don't know. I need to repeat it 100 times. Hazal in the Midrash said that they learn it once, and that's it. They didn't have to learn it anymore. Why? Because they remember. They heard the shi'ur, they remember all the shi'ur. They don't have to again repeat it. They read something, That's it. They remember. After the breakage of the first tablet, what's happened to the Jewish people? Unfortunately, they don't remember anymore. We don't remember anything anymore. We have to repeat it. We have to make sure that even if we have a small verse, to understand that clearly, we have to look at so many mifarshim just to understand one verse. Before that, everything was clear. And if they didn't understand, Hazal say something extraordinary, that if they would look at the tablet that Moshe Rabbeinu brought from heaven, miracle used to happen and they used to understand. How do we understand that? How do we understand that people that used to look at the Torah, okay, and can understand it? Hazal say in Sefer Shmot, Jeffrey, Book of Shmot, Parashat Ki Tisa, chapter 32, okay, in verse 16, 32, 16. Hazal say something very interesting there. He said, how do you know that they can understand if they would look at the first tablet? Where is the source for it? Hazal say like this, look what it says in the Torah. The Torah tells us, והמכתב, מכתב אלוקים הוא, חרוט על הלוחות. Jeffrey going to read it for us in English, and then I will continue to understand. Bechavod, Jeffrey.
Right. The tablets were God's handiwork, and the script was the script of God engraved on the tablets.
Okay. So look how is the verse start, and that's the key word that's going to help us to understand later on everything. It starts with the letters Hey, Hamichtav, the letter, Hamichtav, Hey. That will help us to understand. The letter that HaKadosh Baruch Hu given us was engraved on a tablet. That means if people couldn't understand or they had any question, they just used to look at the tablet, the Midrash say, and that automatically will help them to understand whatever they have a difficulty to understand in the Torah. That's what was so special about the tablet. Hazal continue and tell us something extraordinary. And that will help us to understand. Remember the letters Hey. Don't forget that. That's have a major key. Hadas tell us in the Midrashim, and also the mystical rabbi bringing it, that when the Almighty created the world, okay, HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world with his holy name that's called Yud K Vav K. Okay? Yud K Vav K. Okay? And Hazal tell us in a book of Bereshit, in Sefer Bereshit, chapter 2, verse 4. Jeffrey, chapter 2, verse 4. Hazal tell us there is a special verse that we can understand that HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world with his holy name. And that will help us to understand the letters Hey, to understand why are we fasting on the 17th of Tamuz. And the Torah tells us like this. Ele toldot hashamayim ve'haaretz bivare'am. Jeffrey?
These are the products of the heaven and the earth when they were created on the day that Hashem, God, made heaven and earth.
So HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the entire world, I'm talking about this world, with the letters, with the holy name Yud Ke Vav Ke. Now, if you look at Yud Ke Vav Ke, that's called Shem Havaya, there is two letters Hey, that's the K, we call it K, okay? The one letters A, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, with that letters A, he created the earth, this world. With the other letters Hey, he created the world to come, Olam Haba. Said the Mefarshim that you have to understand by that the tablet got broken because the sin of Heta Egel, the golden calf, that's what caused all the problem in the world. It's caused us that systematically we cannot reach the world to come. Why? Because we supposed to study Torah. By that we study Torah in this world, that will give us insurance to enter for the world to come. If the tablet wouldn't be broken, systematically, we will enter the world to come. Why? Because everything that we learn in the Torah, we will remember. Everything that we learn, we don't have any shaila, any debate, any kashya. We will understand everything. So from day to day, we're just growing. What I learned yesterday, I don't have to repeat it. So I can continue all day just learning and learning and learning until the sky's the limit. Hazal said, but by that the Luchot got broken, now we cause a major problem. We break the change. So now we have to work very hard in this world to reach to the world to come. So Hazal explained like this. The problem is that we have that instead of reaching for the world to come systematically, now we have to work very hard. Say, Hazal, you know why you're fasting? We're not fasting on the things that happen, that the tablet broke, that all the five misfortune things that we mentioned that happened for the Korban Tamid, the Ufke'ah, that the city got, the wall of the city got broken, that Apostamos burned the Holy Torah, that he put a statue in the Torah. No, in Jewish religion, we don't cry about milk that's spilled. We crying and we fasting on Yud Zayin Tamuz. You know why? That we cannot remember the Holy Torah that we study. That we don't have this systematically system that we can grow and to enter Olam Haba with no problem. That means what we fasting about, that we don't have the ability to understand the Torah and to remember the Torah. We actually fasting that we have to work very hard to understand one verse in the Torah. And if we don't want to forget it, we have to repeat and study it again. While before the first tablet broken, automatically, it just was work automatically. I read the verse, I read the mefarshim, I remember them. Now move on. And I will never forget them. A person hear the shiur, he will remember it. A person read the midrash, he will remember it. A person read the Zohar, he will never forget it. The problem is, after the first tablet broke, now we have to work 100 times harder. That's why Hazal explained that we fasting on Yud Zayin Tamuz. That means that we fasting, that what's happened, that because the tablet broke, that's what was leading to the other five misfortune thing that caused. For example, that Korban Tamid being cancelled, that we don't have Korban Tamid. We don't have anymore the city of Jerusalem. We don't have Bet HaMikdash. We mourning about by that Apostamos burned the Torah the first time. That what caused many years later that many Sifrei Torah are going to get burned. When they put the statue in Echal, in Bet HaMikdash, that what caused later on for all the desecration that happened, that people desecrate the Mikdash, the Bet HaMikdash. That's what we mourning. We mourning is because when the tablet broke, that's what now we have to work hard. That all of the problem happened because the tablet is broke, we said. But we're not moaning about that's broke. We're moaning that we cannot have any more those ability to remember the Torah, to grow up. And that's what led later on, and many years later in the Jewish history, that the Korban HaTamid going to be stopped. There is a mahloket if it was Beit Rishon or Beit Sheni. It's already mahloket. Look, that when is the siege around the city of Jerusalem happened? There's one opinion that it happened in Benaim. One happened in Yudzayin Tamuz, not the siege, that they managed to break the wall. Okay, the burning of the Torah that happened by Apostomos. There is again a debate. When is it happened? 17 years before the destruction of the second temple. When exactly? Again, when they put the statue. Again, there is a mahloket. It was the statue of Menashe, or Menashe Melech Israel, or it was the enemy of the Jewish people when they managed to enter, to break the Bet HaMikdash, then they put the statue in Eichal. So that's what we're mourning. We're mourning that we don't have those ability, okay? The systematic ability to understand the Torah, to grow, to reach to Olam Haba. That now we have to work hard in this world to reach to Olam Haba. Okay, so now we understand why are we mourning. But we have to understand something very important. That we have to understand what caused that problem that we lost and the first tablet got broken. In simple English term, what was the cause that caused Moshe Rabbeinu or caused the children of Israel to sin in Het HaEgel, and Bnei Israel now have to work harder to receive something, not automatically. So, Rabotai, the answer to is, it's very important. Hazal tell us again in Parashat Ki Tisa, if I'm not mistaken, it's verse 9, Vayireh ha'am ki boshesh Moshe laredet. Very simple. The nation saw that Moshe get delayed coming up from heaven. That means that the nation saw something. What did they saw? Vayireh ha'am. And the nation saw that Moshe get delayed coming. Why it said Vayireh ha'am? We have to understand. Hazal explained that the problem why we have to fast on the 17th of Tamuz, and that's going to lead us also to Tisha B'Av, is Tikkun HaRe'iyah, the looking, seeing. That sometimes with our eyes we're judging people, sometimes with our eyes we don't understand what we're doing. The children of Israel got misled the time that Moshe Rabbeinu was supposed to come. According to them, Moshe Rabbeinu was supposed to come early morning. Moshe Rabbeinu left late in the afternoon. He told them that it's going to be 40 days. And he came 6 hours later. And they couldn't wait, and they make the golden calf. That's what caused the problem. That means Hazal says, Zakul Inyan Hariyah, the way of looking. And the problem that we have, Rabotai, is what did they saw? We have to understand what did Bnei Israel saw, because the Torah tells us, Vayireh ha'am, and the nation saw. Who's the nation? That's the multi-nation. The Zohar HaKadosh explained wherever the word ha'am mentioned, the nation, it's referring to the multi-nation, Erev Rav. And they start to entice the Jewish people that Moshe Rabbeinu not coming down. And they start to ask, who's going to lead us now? We need someone to connect between us and the Almighty. And they start putting pressure on Aaron. When Hur tried to stop it, Hur, the son of Miriam, the nation killed him. The multi-nation killed him. Aharon didn't have a choice. Aharon said, if they, Has v'Shalom, going to kill him, then it's not going to be takana. So he accepted it, but he tried to win time, tried to gain time. He told them, go and collect money, and then we'll do whatever you want to do. Let's first collect gold. Let's see how many of them. Hazal say that the men start running around collecting, and the men give him. The woman didn't give. The woman refused to give. What's happened? And that time, they already collect. What's happened there? What made them to become so hurried to do that? Listen what the Midrash says. The Midrash say that the Samech Mem, Hazal say that's the name of the angel of death. Call him the Satan, Yetzer Hara. But in the terms of the Kabbalistic name and biblical name, they call him Samech Mem. Gematria 60. Okay? There's a different thing to it. What's hiding behind it? Sorry, Gematria 100. Samech is 60, Mem is 40, Gematria 100. Sorry, my mistake. What is the Samech Mem done? He confused the Jewish people. What is he done? He confused them and he showed them the bed, the bed that Moshe Rabbeinu Has v'Shalom passed away, and he lying in the bed and he showed him floating in the heaven. The children of Israel now got more confused. From one way, they have the multi-nation. Now came the Samech Mem and completely confused them. He showed them that the bed of Moshe Rabbeinu actually floating in the heaven, that Moshe Rabbeinu passed away. Again, what was the problem? Sin. They didn't judge the situation properly. If they would judge it properly, they wouldn't make a mistake. Say Hazal, the problem of Yud Zayin Betamuz lie that because the sin was that the way that we look at things, that's what confuses us. And that's what leads us to that situation. So today, when we're fasting on Yud Zayin Betamuz, Nachon, it was the 5 misfortune thing that we mentioned. But what caused it is the way that we're looking at it. I would like, before I end up, I would like to mention a story, a very interesting story that happened around 12 years ago, around 12, 13 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. It happened in the central of Israel. It was a guy that's studying Avrech, that during the day, he studied at yeshiva. At night, for his living, he installed air conditioning. And he got a contract. He got a contract in a building with a builder that he can put all the air conditioning on a building. And he used to do it in the afternoon. After he finished to study, he used to come. When the flat is ready, he used to install, listen to that, he used to install the air conditioner. He reached to one of the flats, and he put a brand new system, and he didn't want to work. So he phoned the company, and they said to him, what's the problem? He explained to him that it doesn't work. They said, no problem. When can we meet there? He said, look, I'm there in the afternoon. Whenever you have your technician, please send them. So they make arrangement, and here arrived the technician with the name of the company, and you see a guy again wearing a big kippah like him, and he's the technician. And that's Avrech. Look at that technician that came from the company. And in his heart he said, I'm a Avrech, I'm a religious man. During the day I'm studying, and at night I work for my living. And he started to feel like he's above him. He looked at them lower than him. And he said, I'm going to test that religious guy from the company. Is he not anywhere, anything? He wear a big yarmulke. While the technician from the company working on the air condition, and he put his machine, he asked him a question. The guy that was busy on the air condition didn't even turn his head and answering him. And he couldn't understand how come that technician can answer. He said maybe he studied it in a show. Let me ask him in a different thing. He asked him in a question in Ilchot Shabbat. He said, now I'm going to ask him in Ilchot Yoreh De'ah. Completely different. And he asked him, Shaila in Tum'ah v'Tehara. Ilchot Tum'ah. And the guy answered him and he given him all the sources. And that Avrech that used to study during the day, but at night he used to install the air condition, was stunned. Anyway, the technician finished to fix up the air condition. He checked it. He given the remote to that Avrech and said to him, it's working. The Avrech was stunned, couldn't even press the remote control, he said. Listen to that. He folded up his bag with all of his stool. He took his stepladder and he was ready to leave. That Avrech locked the door and he said, you're not leaving here. He said, why? What did I done wrong? He said, you have to answer me who you are. Said, what do you mean who I am? I'm a technician. He said, what I ask you, I'm a Avrech. I sit every day and I study. And at night I install air condition. You're a technician. What you answer me, it couldn't be a normal religious guy. He said, listen, I'm just a technician. He said, don't tell me story. Tell me the truth who you are. The technician looked at him and put his face down and he said to him, I'm actually a rabbi. I'm a rabbi. I'm a rabbi of a city in the south. But I couldn't make a living as a rabbi. I couldn't make a living. And for many years, I tried and I loved to study Torah, but I couldn't make a living. And then me and my wife made a decision that I need to start working. So we decided to move from the south of Israel to the central of Israel. And I got a job in this company. And I'm running, a matter of fact, I'm not a technician. I'm actually designing all the system for them. He says, so how do you remember? He said, let me explain to you. I love to study Torah. And because I love to study Torah, I repeat it all the time. It's in me. So now I understand. And he took their swap telephone number. That Avrech, that was a technician that used to install at night, all the time that he have question in air condition, he used to phone that technician from the company, that rabbi. And a matter of fact, sometimes he had a difficult question in halachically in Shabbat. He used to send people to him. One day, a rabbi of a town phoned that Avrech and said to him, I know that you install air conditioning. He said, yes. I have a technical question for Shabbos. He said, listen, I have a better guy than me that you can ask. And he gave him the telephone number. And that rabbi phoned that rabbi that was behind the line, and he didn't know that he's a rabbi. And he asked him, he told him the question, and the rabbi answered him. The rabbi was stunned on the other side of the phone. He said, thank you, and he put the phone down. He phoned the other technician, and he said to him, listen, what did you give me? Who's this guy behind the line? This is not a technician. This is minimum a dayan. He said to him, let me tell you the truth. He's a rabbi, but he couldn't make a living. And because he was embarrassed to work in the south, he moved to the central of Israel. And now he's run the program of all the air condition for Electra, the company of Electra. And for many years he worked, he bought a house, he became established, he saved some money. After that, he left his job and he returned back to study because his neshama loved to study Torah. Say the avrech that used to install in the evening air conditioning. He said the way that I looked at that religious guy when he come to fix the air condition, I judged them not fairly. What I done, I misjudged them. With the way that I looked at him, just wearing a big yami, I was thinking, look at me. I'm an avrech. I study during the day and at night I work. I didn't know who's sitting or who's standing in the front of me, and I was thinking that I'm better than him. Why did I brought that story about that? We have to understand that the way that we look at things, especially just during these 3 weeks, the way if we want to rectify the situation, if we don't want to fast anymore, and please God, we're not going to fast. Mashiach going to come before that. But just in case if he comes, we have to learn to judge, to look at everyone favorably. I'm speaking for myself, not for you. You old tzaddik. I'm speaking for me personally. That sometimes we look at people and we judge them very harshly. We don't judge them favorably. And I think that's what's happened. That was the cause that what we still fasting on the 17th of Tamuz in Tisha B'Av. That's the main reason that till today we still don't have Bet HaMikdash. Why? Because we don't judge everyone favorably. If we would judge everyone favorably, we wouldn't be in a position that we are now. Because then we would be united. We would love each other. But because we don't have Ahavat Hinam, what is it caused us? Sinat Hinam. And we know that the second temple got destroyed because Sinat Hinam. Because Kamsa Ubar Kamsa. Kamsa Ubar Kamsa. Gemara Masachet Gitin. Amen. So what do we learn? We learn something very important. We learn that we have to judge everyone favorably. No matter how we look. No matter if you have a beard, no matter if you have a yami, he doesn't have a yami, he have a beard, he doesn't have a beard, he have a coat, he doesn't have a coat. Ze lo meshane, doesn't make a difference. If we learn to judge everyone favorably, then we'll see the Mashiach. I would like to end up with positive thing that the prophet Yeshayahu tells us. The prophet Yeshayahu in chapter 11, verse 9, says something very interesting. I'm going to read it and then I will translate it. The prophet Yeshayahu promises us, Ki mal'a ha'aretz de'a et Hashem, kamayim layam mechasim. The prophet Yeshayahu said that in the end, when the Mashiach comes, everything is going to return back the same like was before Moshe Rabbeinu broke the first step. We're going to reach to a level that whatever we're going to learn, we're going to remember. Whatever we're going to learn, not only that we're going to remember, we're going to understand that 100%. Not maybe yes, maybe no. No, clearly, everything going to be clear. And systematically, we're going to reach to the world to come. What does it mean? We know that there is the 7,000. After 7,000, first of all come the 6,000, that lead 1,000 years to the 7,000 years. And between the 7,000 years to the 8,000 years, it's become a different world. That means between the 6 to the 7, we're going to have 1,000 years, that's going to be Olam, different world. That the Mashiach going to be until the 6th, and from the 6th to the 7th, something that we don't understand. And from the 7th to the 8th, when I say 7 to 8, it's from the 7,000 to the 8,000, gonna be a different story completely that we can't even understand what they're talking about. From 6 to 7, it's gonna be Olam HaNeshamot, that the world of the soul, that the soul gonna enjoy the world. But from now, if Mashiach gonna come tomorrow until the 6,000, Olam keminhago noheg, said the Rambam. From now to the 6,000, the world gonna continue normally. We're gonna have a body. It's just that we're not gonna have all the chores that we have today. The Mashiach gonna solve all of that chores. Come the prophet and promise us that this period of time that left from the 5,000 to the 6,000 years from the creation, that's gonna be from the Mashiach come, a beautiful time. That everything that we learn, everything that we read, every halacha that we read, we're not going to have any kasha. We're not going to have any shala debate. Maybe yes, maybe no. Everything going to be clear. So if we summarize what we learned tonight, according to the Pshat of Barim, there is 5 misfortune things that happened to our nation in the history on the same day that's called 17 of Tamuz. But was what caused it that we didn't look favorably at things. If we learn to look at things favorably, we can change everything. And there is a say, if you think positively, things of good will happen. So think about it. If you just think good can lead to do good things, how much is it if we judge people favorably? If we look at people the best that they have on them, how we can change everything in our life. And Be'ezrat Hashem, that we will merit that to see the good in every Jew, to judge every Jew favorably. I'm speaking for myself. Then Be'ezrat Hashem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will send us Mashiach speedily in our day. Amen ken yeh ratzon. If there is any question, I'm sure that you have plenty questions regarding the subject of the 17th of Tamuz, regarding of looking at people favorably. If you have any question, please unmute.
Yeah.
Hello, Erev Tov, Antonio, how are you?
Right, thanks. 2 things quickly. The Mashiach has to come by the year 6,000. So that's 220 years. That's guaranteed. By the year 6,000, he has to come. Is that correct?
227 years, yeah.
But by those years, he has to come 227 years.
And then 6,000 years to come. Nachon, the Mashiach has to come. Before the 6,000.
Before the 6,000. And Tamuz, the one who burned the Sefer, where was he from? Where was he from? This man who burned the Sefer Torah.
Anthony, I didn't hear the word. You sound very broke. The line got broken. Can you repeat the question, please?
The person in one of the 5 things what's his name?
Anthony, the connection is really terrible. I can't make one sentence of what you're saying. Sorry. I don't know if you have bad connection or what is it. I really can't make it. I can't hear any question. I'm sorry. Hello?
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you clearly, yeah.
Tamuz, the one who burned the Sefer Torah. What was his name? Tamuz.
Apostomos. Apostomos.
Where was he from, man? Where was he from?
So Hazal say he was from, some people say he was a Roman. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. He was one of the Roman officers. בסדר? Hello?
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Sure. Any other question? Rabotai, people want to ask other question regarding the subject? Bechavod, please unmute your microphone. I'm listening.
Rav, can I just make a comment on that last question? Can you hear me?
Sure, clear, very clear. Yeah.
On the last question, which you were asked about Apostolos, he was actually at the headquarters in Caesarea, which was the Roman headquarters.
That's it. That's what I said.
Yeah, that's how they
Caesarea, it was the headquarters of the Roman. But the situation that happened, that caused them to burn the Sefer Torah, it's happened next to Bet Haron. Bet Haron, I explained, it's on the way to Jerusalem. It's most probably, maybe, if I'm not mistaken, 30 kilometers just before Jerusalem. You know, before you enter Sha'ar Hagai, maybe 10 kilometers before, 15 kilometers.
Yeah.
Not more.
Yeah.
Okay, Bet Haron, that's where it was. That was a city there. And his officer was in his carrier going, and I think one of the things that they needed, and they broke one of someone's, they entered to someone's vineyard or someone's orchard, and they took something, and they wanted to teach them a lesson, the Jewish people. And a matter of fact, they did beat him. And when they're gone back, they say that, you see, they tried to ambush us, they're trying to go as a coup, and Apostolos, that the headquarters was in Caesarea, took his officers and army, and he gone there, and he asked him to give him those people that tried to cause the coup, and they say it wasn't a coup, an argument happened, and that's that when he burned the Sefer Torah, and that's what led one to each other, and then was the beginning of the coup that's happened with Bar Kokhba. Because we say it was 17 years before the destruction of the second temple. That situation happened, of burning of the Sefer Torah. Many people think that it was happened during the destruction, but most of the Mefarshim explain no, it happened 17 years before the destruction of the second temple. And in the Mishnah, although there is no specific time, the Mishnah doesn't give us time. Rabbi Ovadia Bartenu, as I mentioned earlier, say, listen, the Mishnah doesn't speak about a specific day. You follow what I'm saying?
Yes. I have a question to you now. It was just a comment on what was asked before about Apostolos. I can't get my head around this one. You have mentioned that very clearly, that the 5 reasons why we fast, or could be, there's probably accumulation of all of them. There's probably all of them, but the real one is which we lost the ability to remember Torah, and we actually have suffered for that. We've got to put so much effort into something which even to remember, which you've mentioned. My question is this: how do you know they remembered it? Because they weren't given the Torah before Moses wrote the tablets.
Oh, very good. Moshe Rabbeinu, given the Torah, when did HaKadosh Baruch Hu given the Torah?
That's Sinai.
Har Sinai. Then he gone up to heaven for the first time,
Yes.
to bring the tablet. So they received the Torah. When he came down, he saw the golden calf. 80 days later, That's when he gone up again. He gone twice during that time. 80 days later, he brought the second tablet. But between the Ma'amad Har Sinai to
Breaking
bringing
of the tablet.
the tablets, that's when they used to remember the Torah, the Midrash. That whatever they study in the Torah, they could remember. And the moment that Moshe Rabbeinu in Het HaEgel, in the time of when he came down from heaven and he saw them, the children of Israel dancing and celebrating, and he broke the tablet, automatically, that ability that we have on us to remember the Torah, to understand the Torah clearly, disappear.
I got the timing wrong. I know we got it at Sinai because Moshe gave it as Sinai, and I thought the tablets was part of giving the Torah. And it
No,
was,
you have to go up to heaven.
yes.
But the golden calf happened after Ma'amad Har Sinai.
Okay.
You understand what I'm
Thank
saying?
you. Yes, I got it now.
Is that making, what do you call it,
Yes,
balance on a year, on a timing? You
yes,
understand what I'm saying?
yes.
Ma'amad Har Sinai, HaKadosh Baruch Hu married us on that day. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was the male, we was the female, Hatan and Kala. Hazal say in the Gemara, how can it be that the Kala now betraying the husband? Who's the husband? HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that worshipping idols. You understand?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Shakir.
You understand now the dates, the timing, how's it
The
work?
timing. Yeah.
Good. Any other
So,
question? Any other question? Don't be shy.
we're talking about the Mashiach, Rav, just about
Yeah.
Mashiach coming out. So up to 6,000, we are looking forward to the expectation of the Mashiach coming at that time. But can we bring him earlier?
Sure. Hazal say like this. There is Hahishena or Be'ita. Hazal and the Gemara say. What is the difference between them? Hahishena, Hazal say, Lule Shamru Israel Shne Shabbatot, Miyad Nigalim. Immediately they get rid. That means that if we keep 2 Shabbatot, Hazal say, what else we can do if the Jewish people are going to live together in peace and harmony? I don't have to accept your opinion, but I need to respect you. That means I don't have to agree with you. If you do something, I don't want to do it. I don't have to do it. But I don't have, Has v'shalom, to be arrogant against that. Those people, you know, I always say, you know, sometimes you see people shouting and screaming and behaving a bit not nice. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to say it's very rudely. What causes arrogancy?
Arrogance, pride.
Think that they're better than the other person. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If I shout on you, must be a reason. Why am I shouting on you? Because I think that I'm better than you. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I become arrogant. And Hazal said those people that have arrogancy, they what's keeping the Mashiach from coming. Why? Because they take the title of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the proud, and they use it. Do you understand what I'm saying? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, you took my place. I have nothing to do here. I'm moving away. You understand?
Because people think they know everything and they're better than the next person, and they've taken Hashem's position of knowing everything. Okay.
And HaKadosh Baruch Hu can put with arrogancy.
Yeah.
HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, if you're going to live in peace and harmony, I'm going to redeem you.
Right. That's the
So if we do that,
64,000.
that's called Be'ahishen. That's called Be'ahishen. Be'ita, it's mean on the right time that HaKadosh Baruch Hu decide that the Mashiach gonna come. Why we don't want to wait for it? Because we see how much tragedies and how much sacrifices the Jewish people have to do. If we just follow the mitzvot of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will redeem us. But when we try to become too clever, what we call it uber chochem, HaKadosh Baruch Hu delay. In the meantime, we get prosecuted. If it's all many nations, it was the Egyptian, the Spanish Inquisition, the Ukraine, Hamanitsky and his friend. Then came Hitler, Yemach Shemo Vezichro. Okay. Then it was the British in Eretz Israel. After that, now we have with our cousin in Eretz Israel and all the world against us. It's come to teach us very important thing, that if we're not going to learn that we have to do the mitzvah, to keep the mitzvah, to fulfill the mitzvah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then we have to wait to the right time. But in the meantime, it's going to cost us a heavy fine that we pay.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. And that's what we don't want. You understand?
Yeah. You know, before any good thing has happened to us in history, there's always been a bad time beforehand. So even in our lifetimes, so we had the Holocaust, and then thank God we got Israel. Well, we're in bad times now. So I mean, something good
but
must
we know
be
that
coming.
we're heading to the right time. You know how we know that we're heading to the right time, Jeffrey, Alex? When a woman gets pregnant, we know that she falls pregnant, and after 9 months, she delivered the baby. Nahon? You agree with me?
Yeah.
When is the worst pain coming? Just
before birth.
And as the pain getting stronger and stronger, the woman know that that's the end of the pregnancy and the beginning of a new life.
Yeah, beautifully put. Yep.
And now if you look, when the woman reached to the 9 months, she have contraction. Those contractions have a space-time between one each other. When the contraction become one after each other, that's it. You know that sooner or later, any minute, the baby gonna be delivered. Look at what's happening today in the world.
One after another.
Every second day, lo alenu, we hear about bad news.
Yeah.
Now, Hazal said Tzapelo. When you see that, what's happening, that one after each other, every second minute, there is a chorus, that's when you must wait for the Mashiach. That's when he's going to come. When exactly? We don't know. I'm not a prophet. I'm not a son of a prophet. But I can say what Hazal tell us. When you see that the chorus getting one after each other, Tzapelo. Wait for him. The same like the woman, when the contraction came one after each other, she must wait to see the baby. You understand?
Yeah.
That's the analogy.
Yeah. Shkaya. Thank you.
Pleasure. Any other question, Rabotai? No. Okay. I hope that you enjoy, and I hope that we understand that the main reason that we're fasting on the 17th of Tamuz is because we don't judge favorably each other. That we look at people to what they look. We look at people if they have a yami, if they don't have a yami, if he have a beard or he doesn't have a beard, if he wear a suit or doesn't wear a suit. And that's where the mistake comes. We should judge people how good their heart is, how good they are. It's not by the exterior. Chazal tell us in Masechet Avot, אל תסתכל בקנקן, אלא מה שיש בתוכו. Don't look at the jar and the exterior of the jar. Look what there is inside the jar. That will help you to understand what are you going to drink. Because outside the jar may be going to look beautiful, but we don't know what there is inside the jar. When you look inside what there is inside the jar, doesn't make a difference how the exterior looks. It's the interior what good. And that's what we should judge one each other favorably. I'm speaking for myself. Obviously, you all tzaddikim. I'm here speaking personally for myself. Okay, Rabotai, I hope that you enjoyed the show. I hope that it's going to give us a different way to look. And Thursday, 17th of Tamuz, please God, we're not going to reach to that day, but the Mashiach going to come before. And Be'ezrat Hashem, that the Kadosh Baruch Hu will have mercy and compassion on us, and will send Mashiach Tzidkenu speedily in our day. Amen. Ken Yeh Ratzon. I would like to wish you all a beautiful week ahead. That you should enjoy the week coming ahead. And Be'ezrat Hashem will meet again Thursday night. I know that is the fast of Shvais Rebbe Tamuz. I don't think that after the fast I can give a shiur. So maybe we'll make a shiur before that. Let me see how things going, and I will publicize it on a group, and then we'll decide. In the meantime, I would like to wish you a beautiful evening, a good night to all of you. Thank you for joining us, and a beautiful week ahead, full of brocha, full of successful to all of us. Amen. Ken Yeh Ratzon. Have a good night, everyone.
Amen.
And thank you for joining us. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.